Yukon Metals is the product of 30 years of prospecting by the Berdahl family. If you're familiar with that name, it might be from Snowline Gold. Scott Berdahl is the CEO of Snowline. Him and his father have advanced a vast portfolio of assets over 30 years. They floated the primary gold assets as Snowline. 3 years later, we floated the copper, gold, silver, lead, zinc, and critical metals assets as Yukon Metals. I will be making some forward-looking statements, so please be aware of that. I'll just briefly take you through the senior management group and board. Pat Burke, a well-known quantity, long-time head of capital markets for Canaccord. Dan Vickerman, long-time head of sales, spent time at Canaccord in Europe as well. Darryl Clark is a PhD level geo. Jim Coates is a Yukoner. He owns his own exploration company specializing on Yukon-specific exploration techniques. Myself, I've spent my career in junior mining, save for about 7 years with Silver Wheaton, then Wheaton Precious Metals. During my time there, we did about $6 billion worth of transactions, primarily in the copper, gold, silver, lead, zinc, and critical metal space. Helena Cuica was our first hire, our VPX. She is a superb vice president exploration and has built a very high quality team that has now advanced 3 properties to drilling. So we've got 3 drill ready properties. And finally, Kaylee Gattens has recently joined the company as Vice President of Investor Relations and Communications, and Kaylee comes to us formerly from Goldcorp. Very happy to have her. So we transacted on 17 properties with the Berdahls. Keith Neumeyer of First Majestic fame, I suppose we could say, helped put the transaction together and brought me in to do the capital raise and get listed, close the transaction. So we raised $15 million starting in April and listed on June 3rd. So 17 assets. It was incumbent on us to prioritize when you have that many assets, so prioritize our time and our capital. So we settled on 3 assets to start with, prioritizing geological potential and also access. So starting at Star River, it's quite unique in the Yukon. It has an all-weather access road that's plowed by the government year-round. So superb accessibility. Whitehorse, if you're not familiar, is roughly a 2-hour flight from here. I can get onto property inside 5 hours from Whitehorse Airport. When we started out there, we started with a prospecting program. We had a large group of highly qualified geologists. And early on, we started finding this rock package here. So that's galena, and this galena housed the fine-grained silver that we found there on the property. So those are the first really interesting rocks we started to find. One included almost 11,000 gram per ton silver in galena. I understand from Kaylee that Sprott put out a note that was the 3rd highest grade silver grab sample last year. So that was, of course, incredibly high grade and a bit of an outlier. But we also sampled many examples of just over 1,000 gram per ton, just under 1,000 gram per ton. So consistent initially when we were looking for an analog, consistent with what Keno Hill mined for many decades, in and around 1,000 grams per ton. Subsequent to that, we also, in looking at various parts of the property, we're finding silver, not just in 1 or 2 places, but all the way around the property, and a particular concentration in the south-central area of the property. And that's also where we found high-grade gold, too. The gold is in highly oxidized arsenopyrite, very crumbly to the touch. And we also had incredibly high-grade gold there, over 100 grams per ton gold. For the Americans in the audience, almost 3 ounces per ton. But also, so that again, that's an extremely high grade, a bit of an outlier, but lots of examples of 9 grams per ton, 6 grams per ton, and so on. So after we did this sampling program, we then advanced. At the same time, we had 3 geos on site at any one time and 3 geophysicists. So advancing magnetic survey and then gravity. So we started with the magnetic survey, and in this south central area of the project where we saw multiple plus 1,000 gram per ton silver samples and the 100 gram per ton gold. We also saw this big magnetic high, which is white hot, about 400 meters across. And this is an example in multiple areas of the property. Just following up from the sampling, we see up here. That's the galena that houses the silver, and underneath that is your quartz or stannopyrite that houses the gold. And we see these rock types overlap in outcropping in multiple areas of the property. And so I took you through the magnetic and the sampling, and so when you're looking at magnetic, you can get a false reading there, perhaps from graphite or something of that ilk. I think anyone that's held the rocks in their hand could get a sense that it's very heavy and likely not to be graphite. But during our gravity survey, we were able to demonstrate an 800 meter long anomaly that in this area also overlaps the magnetic high and all of the really high grade, the high grade gold and a lot of the high grade silver. So I think it's fair to say that we really developed a bullseye target for next season, and so we'll be advancing drilling on this property and in this location in May as soon as we can. Moving on to Birch. Birch was operated by Ryan Gold initially. They approached it as a gold epithermal target, and so it did a lot of ground truthing. When we saw it, and Ron Birdall subsequently acquired the property, we believed it had gold-rich, intact copper porphyry potential, and so that's how we approached it. And so we did a 50 by 100 soil sampling survey, used a soil drill to drill 1 meter down into the permafrost, getting a really good high quality sample of avoiding any smearing on surface. And we were able to develop a pretty concise target here. So this is copper gold up here. We show a smattering of moly up here, and then quite a concentrated group of moly down there. So it's really the elements, and there's tellurium there too. So a lot of the elements that you would associate with a porphyry prospect. Also, there's limited outcropping here. It is mostly overburden in soils, but what outcropping there was, up to over 14 gram per ton gold and multiple samples of 2.4% copper. So what we developed here was a 1,400 meter long gold and copper in soil anomaly, featuring gold up to 0.99 grams per ton gold. So almost a gram per ton gold in soils. So with this, what we developed on surface was a sense of scale, potential, and grade with both soils and rocks. So having that in place and demonstrating the potential at surface, we wanted to look at it from the third dimension, and so we did a geophysical survey featuring IP, and we're able to take a look underneath the surface. And what we were able to show there is this is just a snapshot over. This is the soil anomaly here in red, and what we were able to show there is a good indication of continuity of mineralization. So what we'll do here is we'll advance drilling there this season as well, targeting mineralized skarn horizons. And then we'll also drill down to about 300 and 350 meters to really try to get down into the system. Moving right along, we just put a release out on Wednesday on AZ, and it got really good traction in the marketplace. We were trading at 55 cents and closed at 10 cents higher at the end of the day. This is called Chair Mountain. This bald spot is not a slide. It actually represents a kill zone where there's so much metal in the ground that no vegetation will grow. And regarding accessibility, we're talking about copper that is outcropping, and it's 6 kilometers away from the Alaska Highway. And so we found a copper at surface of 3.5%. And so the Chair Mountain is just one area of this, and this is a 1.2 kilometer long Gaussian trend. Multiple samples, 2%, 1%, obviously highlighted by the 3.5%. And that's what 3.5% copper in rock looks like. Finally, we have a superb list of shareholders, really in Vancouver, who's who you'd want to be involved in a company of this stage. As I mentioned, Keith Neumeier behind the story, just under 10% ownership. Mark Wolverton, the Birdalls own 25 million shares. To my understanding, they haven't sold a share of Snowline. I don't expect them to sell any shares of ours either. Commodity Capital, Crescat Capital. We've been trading around a couple 100,000 shares per day over the last few days, and market cap just over 50 million. We'll be advancing drilling on 3 projects starting in May. Thank you very much.